numbers basketball. Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Jacob Birkinshaw, and this week, kicking off the second half of the season, we're going to be looking at the greatest rookie seasons of all time. Let's get into it. So, before we start, I have an announcement to make that you may know already if you listen to the main Overstated NBA show as well. And that is that support for the Overstated is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technological developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, and we have an exclusive offer for our listeners. 20% off plus free shipping with the code OVERSTATED. That's OVERSTATED at manscaped.com. That's Overstated. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Overstated at manscaped.com. Did you get the code already? It's Overstated. That's 20% off plus free shipping. I don't know if you guys listened to the last episode. We ranted for about 6 minutes. Manscaped sent us the products. We all used them. They're amazing. Listen to Steve's story. It's awesome because in Wisconsin, they actually get to go outside and enjoy themselves a little bit, unlike us here in London. So Steve's got to go public with his manscaping. It was pretty awesome. Unlock your confidence just like Steve did. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Again, that's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Overstated at manscaped.com. Now let's get into the episode. So we are doing the greatest rookie seasons of all time. Well, I'll say they're the greatest rookie seasons of all time. I'm just going to be looking at the greatest ones post-merger. We'll look at a few pre-merger ones after we've done this top. It's going to be a top 5 plus 2 honorable mentions, just because these 7 really stuck out to me post-merger. There were 4 that stuck out to me pre-merger that we will get into after we've rounded out the top 5. They were pretty clearly for me above anything else. All of these guys stepped in and were at least top 10 players in the league as rookies. Some of them more than others. Some, I think, were straight away MVP candidates as rookies. But let's get into the first guy, and that is the one, the only Magic Johnson in 1980. He comes in at 7th for me, and watching him and going through the data, it's very clear to me that Magic is not as aggressive offensively as he would become. He doesn't strike the balance between effortless scoring and playmaking like he would do, but he still shows that insane raw ability. I think he is the best playmaker, like passing, specifically playmaker. Playmaking is a bit of a broad term when you try to break it down. We will hit on that later on. But it's as a playmaker, I think he is the best rookie playmaker of all time. I can be convinced with the defensive data, I can be convinced that he's about a net zero defender and an exceptionally strong offensive player. Like, for me, he is automatically an all-NBA player. And as I said, as a creator, he is a step above anyone, I think, on this list. There's maybe one other guy I would put in the same category, but I think Magic, because of his ability to play on the ball at such a high level, he is the greatest rookie playmaker of all time. And then he becomes the greatest playmaker of all time. Obviously, it's Magic Johnson. I don't think he was a top 5 player, but I think Magic was clearly a top 10 player the moment he stepped into the league, clearly an all-NBA player. If you want to say he's higher, for me, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are very close. I split it at 5. I thought there was a slight delineation. But if you have Magic as high as 4th, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think that's perfectly fine. If you think his Game 6 performance in the finals, getting the finals MVP, even though he doesn't deserve it. That should have been Kareem's award. And obviously winning a championship for Magic. If you think that puts him higher on this list and that's what you value and that's what you're basing this on, I disagree, but I can see the logic and I would be okay with him being fourth. But for me, he does come just a bit below that. Points wise, he's putting up per 75 adjusted about 18 points on about 113 true shooting plus. So the league average is 100. If the league average was 100, he's shooting 113. And he's doing it with 18 points using a method created by Thinking Basketball using box creation, passer rating. He works out at about 7 assists. And then his rebounding is above average. I use rebounding plus rates. Both of his offensive and defensive rebounding is above 100. He's creating, based on box creation, about 10 shots per 100 possessions and converting that into about 7.1 assists per 75 possessions. Using a Pythagorean formula to figure out assists that tries to extrapolate Magic's playmaking ability from the teammates around him, kind of adjusting for luck, adjusting for shooting ability. Magic is putting up like an 18 points on very, very high efficiency. He's putting up 7 assists on good volume of creation. His offensive load is about 33.8, which isn't that high. Obviously, he is sharing the backcourt. He is passing to Kareem a lot because Kareem is the focal point of this team. His win shares, his VORP, all these kind of catch-all metrics, they look very good for a rookie. They are certainly top 10 player that year by those metrics. He's definitely, in my book, a top 10 player as a rookie. But this list is going to get very tight, as you will see. So for me, Magic Johnson comes 7th. If you want to have him 6th, 5th, or 4th, perfectly fine. But for me, he's an honorable mention here. Second honorable mention, Hakeem Olajuwon from 1985. Hakeem is, I think, if you just based it on the catch-all metrics like win shares, like VORP, box plus minus, PER, something stupid like that, those tell us something, but they miss a lot defensively. Like, I'm happy to use those kind of catch-all metrics. I'm happy to use them for offense. We're very, very good at measuring offense. We are very bad at measuring defense, and Hakeem is a monster defender. Like, he is, for me, he is elite right out the gate, though he's not as polished as he would become. But he has elite physical tools and fluidity combined with his timing make him already one of the best defensive players in the league as a rookie. Offensively, he is subsisting on rolls, putbacks, some post moves. I watched quite a bit of Hakeem's rookie tape, and I only saw 2 clear dream shakes, like clear spin to the baseline to fake the man out, then spin back center for a post hook. I only saw a couple of those in the footage I watched. They were definitely not as advanced as he would become in the 90s, especially in his offensive peak. But the fluidity is there. And physically, he is a step above the 5s that he's facing. Like, it's a bit like an alien stepping into, you think, the plodding big men of the 80s. Hakeem is just eating them for breakfast. And you can see everything that I think is going to make him an all-time defensive player: the timing, the speed, the hands, the length, the fluidity. I think it's one of the great underrated rookie seasons ever, because it probably wasn't the greatest rookie season of that year that he was in, because he's very raw offensively, especially obviously as a playmaker. Hakeem is, I think, of all these guys I looked at, I think he's probably the weakest playmaker out of all these 7 rookie seasons that I went really in depth in, that I think were the 7 best. He never becomes obviously great, but I do think it becomes a moderate strength in his prime, his ability to draw to and kick. He's hardly, setting someone up. You're not really pulling like the Chris Paul Rondo assists where he's playing chess with the defense to try to open the man up and then getting the pass through. Obviously, that's not in Hakeem's wheelhouse, but he does get better. As a rookie, he is not even that. He is notably bad, and I'd say he's a bit too skinny. Even that, maybe that's just because of the other big men I looked at for this exercise, but he's super polished defensively. I think maybe not the best. I think he's maybe the second best defensive big man I looked at in this whole, in terms of you watch them defensively, they are just everywhere. But you can see the bones are there for Hakeem to become maybe the best defensive player ever. Certainly of the post-merger era, I think Hakeem has a very strong argument, and you can see that right out the gate as a rookie. Again, he's a top 10 player in the league for me as a rookie. Um, I It's just his creation. He's not that skilled, obviously, which is quite ironic for someone like Hakeem, who would become one of the great skilled big men in the league. He's very, like I say, for the fifth time describing Hakeem, the word that really sticks out to me is fluidity, and that really helps him develop. But as a rookie, he's not there. Like, he's putting up 21 points on 104%, 104 true shooting plus. So it's relatively good volume. It's better than average efficiency compared to the peers around him. It's not great. And playmaking wise, he's creating about 2 shots per 100 possessions for his teammates, getting about 1.5 assists, 1.3 assists. I think he's a net negative as a playmaker here. And he's not a huge plus offensively. Overall, I could even be convinced he's not a negative offensively by any means. I think he still has quite a lot of value, but I think he's the weakest of all these 7. I think he is the weakest offensively as a rookie, though I think he's probably the second strongest defensively. Now that rounds out our honorable mentions. Let's get into number 5. Drum roll, please. Just do one in your head. It's fine. I'll wait. Number 5, Shaquille O'Neal. 5th greatest rookie post-merger. Now, Shaq, we all know what Shaq Diesel, Big Aristotle. But the thing that really stands out for me with Shaq as a rookie is how good a ball handler and playmaker he was compared to, I think, the other big men. Like, he's still very raw naturally as a playmaker and the ball handler. He's not Magic Johnson, but I think he is notably the most gifted of the big men of his era when it comes through from his rookie season. He's running fast breaks. He is making clear, good passes to cutters, good post moves and awareness. The thing as well that really stuck out to me that I think really separated Shaq and made Shaq, for me, maybe the only time since Kareem that I think an offense could be completely based around your big man and still be very successful is he has this kind of, it's almost like an innate, unhuman understanding of like leverage and positioning as a rookie. He's got there, especially as a rookie. It's insane the way he's spinning off defenders so regularly, like he's got 360 vision when he's making these spin moves. He's always looking for positioning, and when he's trying to find it, if it's not working, he's going to the other post. He's reestablishing positioning. It's a lot more nuanced, I think, than the other big men I looked at. Like, it's a lot more nuanced than Hakeem and some of the other guys we'll get to later. I think he is. You can see from being a rookie, I think you can see automatically that. Would I say he's the best? Yeah, I would. I would say offensively, he is the best big man I looked at in this whole exercise. And like I said, we're going to be looking at quite a few big men as we go through. And And this none of this is even to mention that he's just a comically gigantic human being. Like Hakeem, I think that's why Hakeem might look a bit skinny, and guys like Tim Duncan look skinny next to Shaq because you look at him come in and he's built different. That boy, he is built different. Um, Defensively, he has got a complete eraser. The amount of like spikes that I saw watching film for Shaquille O'Neal, but he's not very good with his positioning. He's not very good at reading plays. As a rookie, you expect that for me. Like that's but when you're comparing Shaq to guys like Hakeem, who just have this natural ability defensively, this great ability to find and blow up plays, jump passing lanes, Shaq doesn't really have that. He doesn't have a lot of switchability, which was less big back in the 90s, but was still a thing. He doesn't really have that ability. He doesn't have the ability to maybe hedge on a screen or to really read like in a drop coverage. He doesn't really have that, or spot plays coming out of the post. He's not as intuitive as someone like Hakeem or some of the other guys will look at defensively, and I think that is where he bleeds value. But offensively, I think he does make up for it ahead of someone like Hakeem. Um, like I don't know if Shaq has an unblockable dunk, but I would never. I don't know how much money it would cost you to get me to try to block a Shaq dunk. Not that I could, because he's about a foot and a half taller than me, probably with his shoes on. But even just trying, if you told me I would have my hand in the way of a Shaq dunk as a rookie, I don't know how much it would cost you for me to do that. I mean, backboards couldn't handle it. Backboards were getting shattered by Shaq. They obviously they got redesigned after Shaq's rookie season to get him to stop it. I actually looked at how much force you need to break a backboard, and it's about 625 pounds of force to break a backboard. Obviously, he is not the first guy to do it. Daryl Dawkins perfected the art. He even said there's like a special kind of point on the backboard that you grab it right at that point and you can just break it off. But Shaq wasn't just breaking the backboard though. He broke the supports. Like the entire mechanism of the backboard came down with his dunk. I googled how many backboards did Shaq break in his career. I got the answer back from Google of 12 and a half backboards. I don't know where the half comes from, but I think we can just leave it at that. He broke 12 and a half backboards, and they completely redesigned the entire mechanism after him. Now, Shaq was an excellent offensive player. He averaged per 75 possessions about 24 points, 109 true shooting, really excellent. His scoring, his rebounding was the best I looked at from anyone. His rebounding is super elite as a rookie, which I don't think is like incredibly valuable, but I think it does tell you that he is a step above even the great big man that we're going to be looking at later. His physicality is a step above because he's not the best at kind of reading defensive situations or boxing out or that kind of really nuanced intelligence that some of these great big men have. He just has the force that is Shaquille O'Neal, and he is still able to do it better than them. In terms of creation, I think he's creating about 4 shots for his teammates per 100 possessions, but because he's not a great passer, it's only working out at about 2 assists, and I think he is clearly a negative as a playmaker. But his offensive load is quite large. Like Hakeem's is about 31%. Shaquille O'Neal's is up by 35%, which is very high for a big man, especially in that era. Overall, I think you can be tricked into thinking maybe Shaq's rookie year was either too good or not good enough based on what you look at. For me, he is 5th. He could be as high as 4th. Like all these guys I said, between 4th and 7th, you could put them in any order and I wouldn't fight you on it. For me, Shaquille O'Neal ends up as 5th. Now, this one I think I might get some pushback on, and that is 4th. For me, the fourth greatest rookie year post-merger, that is Michael Jeffrey Jordan, 1985. For me, this was, like I said, all these ones between fourth and seventh could swap around wherever they like. I ended up putting Jordan fourth because I think I'm lower on his defense than some people, but higher on his defense than others. Offensively, we'll get into just how good he was, but I put him, he's kind of the best of the rest. Like, there's a top three for me. The top three were very, very clear, but Jordan for me was the best. Now, what really stuck out to me with Jordan as a rookie was the first step. I don't think there's been a player in NBA history with a first step as quick as a young Michael Jordan. Like, he is just teleporting behind players. And you add onto that first step his actual speed. His handle is not incredible, but it does the job. And when you add it to that first step, when you add it to that speed, when you add it to that athleticism, it creates pretty much an unstoppable player one on one. And then you add on to that he's a Skywalker. He is David Thompson plus plus plus. This dexterity that he has in midair, like, he is, when I'm watching him, he's routinely double pumping layups, switching hands, and getting around defenders. Not to mention the dunks themselves, these kind of Statue of Liberty dunks that he's dropping on people's heads and kind of throwing his arm in to protect the ball. He is very, very intelligent movement around the rim, in midair, on the ground, going up for dunks. He's very, very intelligent. Like one thing that really stuck out to me in his dunking, that, yeah, we think of it as being an unstoppable kind of Michael Jordan, the jump man, but it's kind of his dunking is, he knows that his dunks are blockable. Like, he's not as big as these big men, but he has his arm in the way. He's kind of shielding the ball. He's rising up with his backhand, and he's protecting the ball as he's going up with these Statue of Liberty dunks that you can't really get in the way of. Like, he's not turning the ball around. He's really finding clear open lanes. It's very, very safe. Like, it's very intelligent movement midair. That's something that really stuck out to me. And then you add that to the fact that he doesn't turn the ball over. His turnover rate is incredibly low, and it would stay that way for his entire career. His turnover rate would be insanely low, and that's why I think part of his huge success, obviously he's got the mittens, the however long it is, like 9-inch hands or whatever, something insane. Like, he can completely cuff the ball in one hand. He is, what you add to that his scoring efficiency, his intelligence, like his shot selection, I think could be better as a rookie, but his ability to score, his jumper, he comes in, his jumper is very good. Already from the mid-range, it's very good. He's shooting above 80% from the free throw line as a rookie. Super duper impressive. And you add on to that he's got a good handle, he's got this acceleration, he's got this first step, he's got this dexterity in the air, plus this incredible jumping ability, which you just do not find. Like, Isaiah Thomas has a great story about Chuck Daly. Once they were doing kind of scrimmages, I think the Olympic team in '84 against NBA players, and Isaiah didn't really know anything about Jordan at the time, and I believe it was Chuck Daly. Someone quote me if I'm wrong here, but I believe it was Chuck Daly who knew how good Jordan was. Like, he was already saying that Jordan is one of the greatest players he's ever seen, and this is before he stepped foot in the NBA. He says to Isaiah, like, "That's one a little different now. He's this boy a little different about Jordan." And Isaiah's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Let's get into the game." And Jordan just teleports behind him, and Isaiah's like, "Oh shit, what the fuck just happened?" Like, it's like, it's someone coming from a different world. Jordan, he's a next level athlete to the guys that he's playing against. And that is the top NBA players. Like, Isaiah at the time in '84 and '85, that's like Isaiah's peak. And Isaiah at his peak is one of the 5 to 10 great point guards in NBA history. and Jordan just eats his lunch as a 21-year-old rookie. That's next. Obviously, he's bigger than Isaiah already, but Isaiah wasn't a slouch defensively. And you put all that together, my one issue with Jordan is that he misses a lot of opportunities as a playmaker. Like, Jordan is not a good passer as a rookie. He becomes better. He's never super duper impressive as a passer. He's not obviously Magic. He's not, LeBron, obviously, any of these guys. That's not really what his game's about. But the thing is, even though he's missing a lot of opportunities, he's creating so many opportunities. Like, I reckon with box creation says that it's about 11 per 100 possessions he's creating. And this is just because he's so unstoppable. Like, he creates so many scrambles and so many double teams because you cannot stop him one-on-one, that even though he misses a lot of opportunities to pass to his teammates, to create open shots, he's creating so many of those opportunities that it doesn't really matter. Like, functionally, it adds up to being quite a similar amount of playmaking as someone like Magic Johnson. Though he is obviously a far less skilled playmaker, he's creating at such volume, he's generating these open looks at such volume, it adds up to being very similar. Now, his offensive load is quite a bit higher. Like, Jordan steps in, and his offensive load is in the 95th percentile all time. It's about 44%. But when you add that to his scoring ability of it's about 28 points per 75 possessions, 109 true shooting plus, so 9% better than league average true shooting. I say his creating about 11 shots for his teammates per 100 possessions. It's probably working out to about 7 assists with a historically low turnover rate, even as a rookie. You add that together, I think Michael Jordan might be the greatest offensive rookie ever. Like, I think he has some competition in that department. No one that we've mentioned so far, Shaq, Hakeem, Magic, none of those guys I think really come close to Jordan. And if you just look off those catch-all metrics, like I said, they're very good at capturing offensive information. Jordan is maybe second, maybe first, second ever as a rookie. If you just use those metrics, I don't think he is, but I think certainly offensively, he is the greatest rookie of all time. The problem is, though, he does bleed a bit of value defensively. He's not a good defender. I think he is a net negative defender. Now, he gets a lot of steals, but he gambles a lot. He is out of position a ton. He doesn't stick to his man or play in a system. He's constantly ball watching, and he gets burned so much. Now, that's pretty standard for a rookie. Like, rookies aren't good defensively. And Michael Jordan has the added bonus of being Michael Jordan, which means that even though he's getting burned constantly, he's so much quicker that he can make up ground like a madman. But I do think he is bleeding some value defensively. And if he was a net zero, he would close the gap to third. If he was a positive, he might just jump to third, but he doesn't for me. Michael Jordan, the fourth best rookie of all time for me. Though you might obviously feel differently. You might think that no, Jordan is second, or Jordan is the greatest rookie ever. I totally disagree with that. I don't think there's a surefire argument you can make for Jordan to be higher than fourth, honestly. And maybe you're thinking that, but I hope to be able to convince you otherwise with these next three. But for me, he is clearly fourth. He could be as low as seventh, though. That might be sacrilegious, but he could be that low. I just think he gives up a little bit defensively, and through doing that, which is fine, he's a rookie. He can give up some of that incredible offensive value defensively and still be a clear top 10 player in the league. He steps into the NBA. He's clearly a top 10 player for me in 1985. But when you are comparing it to these great players, like Shaq is adding a lot of value offensively, and he is adding the value defensively. Hakeem is adding value offensively, and he's adding a lot of value defensively. Like, for me, Jordan, this is such a tough field. Like, these guys that are coming up, they're adding a shit ton on both ends, and it's just superseding for me what Jordan does. But he is still the fourth best rookie ever. Technically fourth best post merger, but we'll get into that later. Now, to third. My third greatest rookie of all time, Larry Bird in 1980. It's quite funny as well that now at this point we're going to talk about five rookies, and Bird and Magic were part of the same rookie class, and Jordan and Hakeem were part of the same rookie class. So those 80 and 85 years, that's crazy to come out, and you have these two rookies in each one that go on to become, top 10, top 5 players ever kind of level. Absolutely insane. But Larry Bird, for me as a rookie, he's very similar to peak Larry Bird. He comes in and he's just, I wonder, I would love to know who Larry Bird based his game off, or who inspired what Larry Bird is, because he might be the definition. Like, I think people like him, Luca, I think, is less so now, because there's so much more that he can take in. Like, as a kid growing up in Spain or in Slovenia, whatever, he has Google, naturally. He has YouTube. He has TV. He can watch the superstars. He can watch LeBron, Durant, Westbrook, Kobe, blah, blah, blah. He can watch all these guys and he can get inspired by them. I have no idea who Bird was watching in the 70s in French Lick, Indiana. I really want to know, because Bird might be the great basketball savant ever, in terms of just, where did you figure out how to do the things that you do? And he comes in, he's 23, so he's a bit older, but he's so similar to what he would become. Like, he's a bit less refined, but a lot of it is just refining what he already is. Like, his passing isn't the godlike off ball, on ball, super fluid passing it would become, and his shot selection and intelligence is a bit lower, because he's only 23 years old, even though he looks like he's about 30, but it is still Larry Bird. And his defense is probably better than his actual peak, because of the extra athleticism and the extra pop that he has. Like, it's tough to know really how much worse he is offensively. For me, he's more tentative, and it's just less experience. And it feels like he doesn't have the green light that Larry Bird would have in like 1984 to 1988 kind of range. For me, that peak Larry Bird, when he is just doing the Bird things. He is doing those, like the one where the ball comes out from a rebound and on the baseline, and Bird just grabs it with his right hand, shifts it to his left while in midair, and does a layup. Stuff like that. Like, the jumper is still there. He is a great jump shooter as a rookie, just out of the gate. He is first team All NBA player. Like, this is why for me it's such a clear gap from third downwards, because these guys before him, Magic, Hakeem, Shaq, Jordan, they're top 10 players. They're All NBA players. Larry Bird might be the third best player in the league when he steps into it, behind Kareem and Dr. J. He might be the third best player. He might be the second best player. I'm not 100%, honestly, because he's very good defensively as well. Like, he is jumping passing lanes. He has some rim protection. He's obviously the quickest he'll realistically ever be, which isn't very quick, but is still good enough, especially in his era. It's still good enough. And for me, when you add his ability as a jump shooter with his ability as a playmaker, like, for me, he's not a great creator, but I think he adds a lot of value. Like, I think Magic is the best playmaker. Jordan is such a high volume. Like, Jordan, like I said with him, he is such an insane weapon offensively that he's just generating so many looks for his teammates. I think Bird falls somewhere in the middle of that. maybe a bit less volume than either one, but still the quality is there 100%. Very low turnover rate. That's something Magic actually has. Not great compared to these guys. Magic has a bit higher turnover rate, even with the extra playmaking. Bird has a very low turnover rate, very good jump shot, very good playmaking. My only issue is his scoring percentages aren't great. He's putting up 22 points per 75 on basically league average shooting. It's 101 true shooting plus, where 100 is league average, so it's basically league average. But overall, he is such a good offensive hub still, even as a rookie, that like I think Jordan is better than him, but I think Bird might be the second best offensive player as a rookie in NBA history. And I think between that and defensively, he is legitimately very valuable. Like he's a valuable wing forward kind of combo 3-4 defender, and he is very good at that level. Would probably say I don't know, I'm not sure how much of a plus I think he is defensively, but it's not that much lower than someone like Shaquille O'Neal for me, honestly, in terms of their defensive value as a rookie. Maybe more, maybe less than Shaq, but it's that kind of level. And Shaq isn't a great defender for a big man, but to be on that kind of level, Bird is a very good defender for a wing. And when you add that together with his offensive value, yeah, Bird is for me either the second, third, maybe fourth, depending on where you want to put Moses Malone. But Bird is absolutely like first team All NBA MVP candidate, high level player as a rookie. Basically, he is Larry Bird, but less Larry Bird. Now we're moving on to someone kind of similar to that. Second place, I have the great Tim Duncan in 1998. Now, a lot like Larry Bird, Duncan comes in and he is immediately first team All NBA player. Clearly, clearly a top 5 player. I don't know, who would I even have ahead of him? I think obviously in 98 you've got Jordan, Robinson, Shaq, although a lot of people push back on Robinson, but I think Robinson was super valuable. Shaq, Karl Malone, Alonzo Mourning. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Yeah, I think Duncan is like same kind of level as like Malone and Mourning. So you could have him like fourth or fifth for me as a rookie in terms of who the best players in the league are. And he's that like straight away almost. Like he puts up a 15 and 10 on his debut. He nearly puts up a 20-20 in his third game as a professional. And by February, March, he is one of the elite players in the league. He's putting up 30 and 15, 25 and 17, 35 and 14 with 5 blocks kind of stat lines. Like those real Tim Duncan stat lines where the guy will just come out and drop 25, 15 with 5 blocks on you while wearing like the most 90s nerd clothes imaginable. He is a walking meme, and he is that by February of his rookie year. He is already that guy. Like the only major differences between rookie Duncan and peak Duncan for me are shot selection. He gets better, obviously, at that. His bank shot, which it's not as common as actually I think people like to give him credit for. He has a lot of different range of options in the post, but as a rookie, those are less visible to me. His ability to attack the rim improves as well. As a rookie, he's at about 65% at the rim. At his peak, he's like 70, 71%, which is a small but significant difference. That's like averaging an extra zero point 0.1 point every time you go to the rim. That shit adds up over a game, over a season. That adds up to a lot of value difference. But it's a small difference in terms of per possession basis. Defensively, obviously, he gets better naturally, but he comes in and he is very, very good. Like, it's a real toss up for me between Duncan and Hakeem. as a rookie. I think Hakeem ends up at a higher peak, but he's more raw, whereas Duncan doesn't have some of the physical tools that Hakeem has, but he is really intelligent and he has a lot of great qualities as well. He's a really, really good athlete as a rookie, and he ultimately, functionally, he is a center for me. Duncan is the least power forwardy of the great power forwards. I veer back and forth between this because I know he considers himself a power forward, but he's just the prototype big man for me. He is like a touchstone of what a big man in the NBA should be, is Duncan. Whereas guys like Karl Malone, Dirk, Garnett, they are very clearly power forwards. Duncan is not that. Duncan is a big man. Garnett may be a bit different. Garnett's a bit of a unique case, but for me, that's why Duncan's defensive value is so much higher, and he develops a lot from his rookie year. And then obviously playmaking. Duncan becomes a very good playmaker as he develops. He's not that yet. Now, he makes strides, shot selection, attacking the rim, defensively playmaking. Like, that's a lot. But I think apart from playmaking, none of them take like seismic jumps by his prime. They're just small increases over time that when you combine all of that ability with shot selection, rim attacking defensively, and then a big extra like serving of playmaking, you combine all that together and it takes someone from being, a top 5 player in the league to one of the great big men peaks in NBA history, one of the great players in NBA history. I do think you could swap him and Larry Bird for second and third. I think those two, like I said, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh with Jordan, Shaq, Hakeem, and Magic, you could put those in any order and I wouldn't fight it. But the top 3 for me are stuck. However, Duncan and Bird in 2 and 3, they can swap back and forth. I originally had Bird, I think, second, and then I ended up putting Duncan there just because I think his defensive value is very high, and then offensively, he still adds enough that I think combined with his defensive value, it pushes him above Bird. But that's for you to decide. I wouldn't disagree with either one. To give you some numbers, 24 points per 75, 110 true shooting, so very good scorer coming out of the gate, creating about 4 shots per 100 possessions, 2.5 assists adjusted per 75 possessions, and as a rebounder, he's very, very good. Like, he's basically comes in at kind of peak level as a rebounder. It's very similar to it. And that's why I've got Tim Duncan, number 2, all time on my greatest rookie seasons. Now we have reached number 1. For anyone that wasn't expecting this, learn to expect it, because this is clearly number 1 for me. Like, I started this experiment and I was like, oh, this guy is not just very obviously the greatest rookie season ever. It's just one of the great seasons ever. Like, this guy, I'm not sure if it's like a top 100 season ever or top 50 season ever, but it's one of the great seasons that I've seen. Like, defensively, monstrous, offensively, monstrous, overall, like maybe comes in as one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league. I'd probably say 4th, but that's because he comes in. It's David Robinson. Just to stop the suspense, David Robinson came number 1. I think he probably comes into the league as the 4th best player for me. And he comes in maybe the most talented era in NBA history in terms of like ability of the top guys. The only real difference I can see for David Robinson from a rookie to peak is playmaking gets better, bit of shot selection improvement, polishing that up, and then a little bit of skill. Just a little bit, smidge more skill. But apart from that, rookie David Robinson is just David Robinson. He is 7 foot tall, carved from granite, running the floor like a supersized 6'6" wing, like a James Worthy or something. He's got spin moves. He's a lob threat like crazy, a roll threat, just swallowing shots around the rim, getting in passing lanes, jumping passing lanes, and then he'll run down the floor quicker than the guards and the wings chasing him. Like, he's like a more talented, bigger, better 24-year-old version of DeAndre Ayton. And in an era that perfectly caters for his skill set. Like, imagine DeAndre Ayton back in the 90s, which as well, like, that's poor guy, that these generational big men we have now that just don't get a look in. Hopefully DeAndre Ayton develops like David Robinson by the time he's 24. But 24-year-old David Robinson was absolutely out of this world. He steps into, like I said, one of the great eras in NBA history for peak talent in peak 1990 Jordan, Hakeem, Magic, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, and he is immediately in the conversation for the best players. Like, I think he is behind Jordan, Hakeem, and Magic, but for me, he's the fourth best player in 1990. He ends up coming sixth in the MVP race. He's an all NBA player, all defensive player. He is comfortably the best rookie ever for me. But he does have very unique circumstances, which obviously change the dimensions of this question, because he's 24 as a rookie. Like Larry Bird was a very unique case, and he was 23. And then you think 24 is really when players start peaking. Like, I've done quite a bit of research on this. Generally, about 24 to 29 is kind of true peak level. Sometimes it's even actually the peak. Let me say that 3 more times. Obviously, the peak is about 27 to 29, I've found, but it starts at about 24 and it goes through till about 29 to 30. That's generally when most of the best players, I'm talking basically everyone, is in their prime. Is about 24 is when it begins. And that's basically what David Robinson comes in. He comes in very close to the finished product. And David Robinson's finished product is one of the greatest big men in NBA history. So it's kind of not really replicable. Obviously, he had the Navy commitments. I think everyone listening to a podcast like this knows why David Robinson was 24 when he came out. But it's just not a replicable series of events. And for me, that's why he steps up so clearly compared to all these other guys. Like, to throw some stats on it, 26 points per 75 possessions, 111 true shooting. For me, it's either him or Jordan are the greatest scorers. I'm probably just about lean Jordan, but David Robinson is right there with him as a scorer, not as an offensive player, as a scorer. He's only creating about 4 shots per 100 possessions, getting about 2 assists per 75. Good turnover rate, though. Very good turnover rate. Excellent rebounder, like better rebounder than Tim Duncan. Not as good, I don't think, as Hakeem or Shaq, but still excellent rebounder. And then defensively, I think he is a step above anyone that I've talked about so far. A legitimate step above, to the point that even those catch-all metrics like win shares, like VORP, even they bow down to David Robinson over a guy like Michael Jordan, who gets more of a boost in those kind of stats from being a predominantly offensive player. And that is partially because David Robinson is such an incredible offensive player. But then you add that defensively, he is a step above anyone else. Like, Hakeem is close, Duncan is close. Robinson was clearly, for me, a better player. He is more intelligent. Just because he's 24, he's more refined. It's not a fair fight with these guys. And it was very comfortable for me that David Robinson had to be number one on this list. But obviously, he is not the only guys. He's not the only guy who could be number one. But to do that, we have to go back a bit further. I didn't do as in-depth research on these guys. I just kind of skimmed it and thought, right, all of these guys would be in discussion. I would add those if I was going pre-merger. Those four guys are in order of when they came into the league: Bill Russell, um, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Um, it's very tough just without looking real detailed to say, but just looking at kind of catch-alls and generally what I already have about these players, 'cause I've got quite a lot of data and know quite a bit. I've seen, games from all of them going back, not necessarily their rookie year. I think Kareem's was year two. Bill Russell, I think I have seen from Bill Russell's rookie year, and Oscar's and Wilt's rookie year, but Kareem, I'm not sure if I watched a game when Kareem was a rookie. But I reckon Wilt Chamberlain as a rookie might just challenge David Robinson, as it seemed like he's 23 coming in. I think Kareem would be in that top three of David Robinson, Larry Bird, and Tim Duncan. I think Kareem would crash that party. Not sure where he would come. I don't know if he would overtake Robinson or Bird or Duncan, but he would be somewhere in that. And I think Wilt would probably be number one. So that would create a new top five of Wilt, Robinson, Larry Bird, Kareem, and Tim Duncan. Then Bill Russell and Oscar, I think, would be a little bit lower. I'm not sure if they would be above Jordan, Shaq, Hakeem, and Magic. Definitely, I think they would be above Magic and Hakeem. Don't know where they would slot with Shaq and Jordan. Maybe above them, maybe below them. Either way, it's clearly stratified that you have this top five of Duncan, Kareem, Bird, Robinson, and Wilt, and then you have this six below them of Bill Russell, Oscar, Shaq, Hakeem, Magic, and Jordan. As long as they're delineated at that line of those five and those six, I'm not too fussed about what order you put the individual players in. I think there's a clear divide there, but those are the 11 great rookie seasons in NBA history. But this obviously got me thinking about rookie seasons and if it's possible. Let me just run through how many years all of these guys spent in college. Bill Russell spent 3 years in college. Oscar Robertson spent 3 years in college. Wilt spent 2 years in college, but then spent a year as a globetrotter. It was the 50s and 60s. Don't question it. Kareem spent 4 years in college. Bird technically spent 3 years at Indiana State, but it was closer to like 4 or 5 years when you adjust, because he went to college, he dropped out, he ends up, they convinced him to go back, and he spent 3 years, and then he went to the NBA. That's why he was like 23 when he came out. Hakeem spent 3 years in college. Jordan spent 3 years in college. Shaq spent 3 years in college. Duncan spent 4 years in college. And Magic is the outlier here, who only spent 2 years in college and came into the league when he was 20. Him and Shaq both were age 20 in their rookie years. All the other guys were older than that. They ranged from Duncan and Jordan were 21. Kareem, Bill, Oscar, Hakeem, they were all 22. Wilt and Bird were 23. And Dave Robinson obviously was 24, like I said. Now, ask yourself, would that ever happen again? I don't think anyone will ever have a rookie year as good as these guys again. And because people just don't come into the league at those ages anymore. And players that did at the time did it at kind of too high a level for anyone coming in at a normal age. Like rookies nowadays, they come in at 18 or 19. There is no one 18 or 19 that could come in and play at the level these guys were playing at when they were like 21 and 22. It's just not possible. Like someone like Luka, who is a generational talent, maybe, I've said it before, maybe on the trajectory to become one of the, if not the greatest player ever. Through age 20, he's on that trajectory. But he comes in and he explodes in his second year. And he would be in there, if that was like his age 20 season, the season he just had before this one, if that was his rookie year, he might be in the discussion for like a top 3, top 5 spot in this list of rookies. but it wasn't his rookie year. And he probably wouldn't have been that good without his actual rookie year under his belt. Like, we have LeBron is maybe the greatest 18-year-old ever, and his rookie year didn't come close to this. It didn't even scratch the surface of how good some of these rookie seasons were. Guys like Garnett and Kobe, some of the great players to ever come out of high school, not close to how good these years were. And with the way the league is going, with rookie years, will remain like I rookie years may end up going back to about 18 for the real great players. I don't think the top 5 of that list that I mentioned is going anywhere anytime soon. I even think for a rookie year to break the top 10, like maybe Luka would this last year if he was a rookie, which he wasn't. Like I said, he wasn't. He probably wouldn't have been that good if he was. Even to break the top 10 would, I think, require very unique circumstances, like a David Robinson kind of circumstance, where you have a 2-year army commitment to do before you join the NBA, and you're one of the great talents in NBA history on top of that, or you have such an outlandish level of talent at a young age that I think it's possible, but I don't think it's realistic. Like, you need to be better than LeBron or Kareem were at like age 18 or age 19. And they're probably the two great natural talents in NBA history. Like, I think it's possible. I think someone will one day come along and be better than LeBron or Kareem was at 18 and 19. But you have to be notably better than they were. And even that might only get you into the top 10. Like, I just don't think it's possible with the way the league is going, with how young players are joining the league now, that anyone will crack this greatest rookie ladder. It's just not realistic for me. And even when we look at, right, I've now gone through it. I've named players before the merger. Let's just take like a bog standard top 10 in no order, just a bog standard top 10 players ever, the kind of the general consensus top 10 of Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Bill Russell, Shaq, Magic, Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, Wilt Chamberlain, and Kobe Bryant. Like, don't worry thinking too hard. It's just that's just a bog standard top 10. Choose your own order. I don't care. Apart from LeBron and Kobe, all the rest of those players I've mentioned in this podcast and talked about their rookie campaign and had their rookie campaign as one of my great pre/post-merger rookie years. LeBron and Kobe are the only ones that came out of as a high schooler, and they ended up on this list. So, of the greatest players ever. So you have to be the greatest player, one of the greatest players ever, like the next Magic, the next Shaq, the next Michael Jordan, the next Tim Duncan, and you have to stay in college for a couple of years. That is never happening nowadays. You are never getting someone as talented as LeBron James going to college if they can help it, or not doing, a one and done year. And for me as well, Kobe isn't in my personal top 10. Shock horror. Kobe isn't in my personal top 10, but Hakeem is. And Hakeem got mentioned. So the only player in my own top 10, personally, that I haven't mentioned on this rookie list is LeBron James. And he came out 2 years younger than any other player on my own top 10. That's Shaq and Magic, who came out as 20-year-olds. LeBron came out 2 years younger than them. He is the only player that who has a rookie season that I don't think compares. So just think how good you would have to be to break onto this list. Like, as a 19-year-old, given the current climate of one and dones, with the advent of maybe the high school jump to prep to pro coming back, think of how good you would have to be. Think of the outlandish level of talent. Like, you need to be an 18-year-old as good as 1980 Magic Johnson, as good as 1993 Shaq, or as good as 1980 Larry Bird, or Tim Duncan in 98. All these guys that were 21, 22, 20 years old, and also some of the greatest players ever. Like, all these guys would go on to have greatest careers in NBA history. Like, you might say David Robinson is the worst of these guys. I think between them, the pre and post merger guys combined of Wilt, Kareem, Bill, Oscar, Robinson, Duncan, Bird, Jordan, Shaq, Hakeem, and Magic, David Robinson and Oscar Robertson are maybe the two worst. And those guys are like consensus top 15, top 20 players ever. And they might be the worst players on this list. Like, you need to be in that ultimate elite tier of not just like first ballot Hall of Famer, but I had multiple years where I was an MVP level player, like, and leading championship level teams for multiple years kind of player, just to be considered for this list. And then you need to come out when you're 20, 22 years old to be good enough from the jump to make this list. I don't think, unless they go the complete other direction with coming into the league and say, you need to spend 2 or 3 years in college to make the jump to the pros. Unless they do that, and I don't think there's any way they ever do that, I think it's going the complete opposite direction. And that would be going so against what the general consensus is, that there's no way, in my opinion, the league will ever do that. Certainly not in the far foreseeable future. That this list of the greatest rookies ever, it's not going to change. This is set in stone for me for maybe not forever. Like, I do think, like I said, nothing ever lasts forever. There will be an 18 or 19-year-old that comes along who is better than LeBron James. But I don't think it's possible to have an 18 or 19-year-old enough better than LeBron that they can make this list. Because LeBron, honestly, he didn't come particularly close for me to make this greatest list. And Luka didn't come particularly close. And other guys in that kind of the 18, 19-year-olds, like Kobe, did not come close. Garnett did not come close. These guys that go on to become top 10, top 15, top 20 players ever, if they're not coming in when they're 20, 21 years old, if they are just jumping straight from high school or 19 years old, they're just not good enough. They just will not be good enough, and they will not stay in college. A Kobe Bryant in 2020 would not stay in college for any more time than he absolutely has to. Like, these guys like Cade Cunningham, just as an example of, the next star coming through, there is no way Cade Cunningham would spend 2 years in college if he had the option. If he wasn't forced to spend 2 years in college, there is absolutely no way he would do it. Zion, Zion did say he kind of enjoyed it, but, he seems to #built different. But there is no way the people around Zion would let him go back to college when you are already the clear consensus number one pick. Get out, get that money. That wasn't the case so much 20, 30, 40 years ago. Obviously, there was money in it, better than a regular job. But it's not like it was where, getting a degree was still valid. Now, Zion comes out. As soon as he signs the contract, his rookie deal, he's guaranteed enough money to get like 20 degrees if he really wants to. Like, it makes no sense to stay in college. No financial sense. You can say, but they're giving them money. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about how college is such a ripoff. Whatever. It's not happening anytime soon. In the foreseeable future, this rookie list, these 11 seasons I've talked about, and the 7 post-merger seasons, these are, for me, basically set in stone as the best rookie years ever. You can swap around, like I said, 4 to 7 range. You can swap those around as you see fit. Second and third, you can swap around as you see fit. But for me, David Robinson, number one, the greatest rookie season post-merger, possibly the greatest rookie season ever, him or Wilt, but definitely in the past 50 years, the greatest rookie season. Probably will be that way in another 50 years. So that's David Robinson 1, Tim Duncan 2, Larry Bird 3, Michael Jordan number 4, Shaquille O'Neal 5, Hakeem Olajuwon 6th, and Magic Johnson 7th. With honourable mentions to Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Oscar Robertson for being pre-merger guys that I didn't go too deeply into. But that'll do it from me. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. If you reach this point, you are a ride or die fan anyway. But please support us through Manscaped with the promo code overstated to get 20% off and free shipping. You are all legends. Some of you guys have already bought them. You are beautiful, beautiful people. Please join our Facebook group if you haven't. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.